I want to take a minute today to look at whose land we're on. We're on the ancestral lands of many peoples, including the Chinook. And may our words today and our deeds going forward honor these people who lived in harmony between people and earth for many millennia on this land. Friends, join me in a scenario. It's August 2027, and you're in the middle of an extreme heat wave. It has been in the triple digits for well over a week, and now the power has gone out. And you have learned on the television before the power went out that people are dying in your region because of this heat, and moreover, the hospitals are now turning people away. As you're sweating in your house that now lacks air conditioning, you remember Andy, your neighbor. He's 75 years old, very dear friend of yours. Is he okay? He's at risk. You run over to his house, he doesn't answer. You let yourself in, you find Andy on the couch, barely conscious. You feel his hands, his forehead, he's very hot, but he is not sweating. This is bad news because it looks like heat stroke, and heat stroke can be fatal. You reach for your phone to call for help. Your phone is dead. You want to take him to the hospital. Hospitals are turning people away. Oh no. You remember you heard about a community resilience center that should be able to help in a crisis like this. You get Andy into your car and you drive the few miles on over. And there is a community resilience center, evidently. And a woman named Maria greets you at the door, and she gets Andy into the back of the building where there's a clinic with volunteer nurses. Oh, you're relieved. You sit down, you gather yourself. Maria brings you cool water, and you learn that it's not a diesel or propane generator powering this building, this little oasis, as you would have thought. No, it's actually, she shows you, 3 electric school buses. And they're actually sending the energy from their massive battery packs into your building. You say, well, I've never heard of that. Great, but what about when the battery packs run out? Medea says, on the roof of our building, we have solar panels. They're harvesting the energy from this abundant sun and sending it over into the school buses in a self-sustaining loop that could go on for days, maybe even for weeks if needed. Friends, I'm talking with you today about how electric school buses can improve our lives, whether or not we have children. Climate change is advancing faster than we had thought, and we do have to reduce our emissions. Absolutely, electric school buses do that. We also have to adapt. We also have to become resilient. And electric school buses are uniquely suited to do both of these. Our story today is about the nexus between the school bus world and the energy world. They're coming together for the first time. This story is about some energy independence, some local control, and the power that we have in our communities to be resilient. So let's look first at the world of school buses. How many of us in the last couple of weeks out in the world have seen at least one yellow school bus? Okay, that would be all of us. And here's the reason. School buses proper, they're everywhere. There are 480,000 just in our country, many more in Canada. I tell you, I love all school buses of whatever type because they're making public education possible. They're holding our society together. I have enormous respect. They are carrying precious cargo. That's not a sentimental term. That's the legal term for the students that they are carrying. What we don't tend to know about school buses is that they only operate 180 days a year. That's a school year. Also, they only operate 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon. What that means is that more than half the days of the year, roughly 18 out of 20 hours a day, 24, they are sitting peacefully in their parking lots, and they're virtually waiting to be of further service to their communities. So hold that thought. Our energy grid is keeping our lights on right now, keeping our projector on. We all depend totally on our energy grid. And under the radar that we don't tend to realize, our energy grid, friends, was built more than 100 years ago, and it was never built for the population levels that we have now. And especially, it was never built for the extreme weather events that are hammering us in all parts of our country, whether it's hurricanes, storms, flooding, wildfires, extreme heat waves. The power outages that we're facing are more and more destructive all the time, both in human life, economic damages. What we need is to shore up our power grid, not with more fossil fuels, but with clean energy, the kind that electric school buses store so well in their battery packs from renewable forms of energy that are intermittent. They balance each other. Okay, let's find out who are the people who made this Community Resilience Center possible. And we're going to back up to 2016. Maria, who you've met, 35 years old at this time, a community organizer with other Latina mothers in a nonprofit called Chispa. The Chispa team convinces the state legislature to invest a portion of their Volkswagen mitigation funds, all states got these, into the state's first electric school buses. Maria has a very specific inspiration to do this. She has an 8-year-old son named Arturo. These are fictional characters, but based on real people, okay? Arturo is an active boy, plays soccer, he's smart. Arturo has asthma. Like 1 in 15 children in the US, and in some disadvantaged neighborhoods, it's 25% of children who have asthma. Now, when Arturo rides the yellow school bus to school, the diesel in this case, he sometimes gets asthma attacks and he can't go to school. When children miss school, that starts to chip away at their graduation rates and their life opportunities. Maria and other mothers care about their children and all children, and they're getting electric school buses into them. This is what brings us to Heather. Heather is 60 years old, and she operates the school bus fleet in the town of Nelson, where all of our characters are living. Heather came up through the ranks as a bus driver. She loves the kids that she transports. She loves her drivers. However, when she learns that she's getting the state's first 3 electric school buses, she's concerned. And that's because change is hard. And change is hard for all of us, including for me. She's worried especially that her drivers that she depends on, and there's a driver shortage here and in most places, that they won't like this, that this change will disrupt them and they will not be on board. What she finds as the electric school buses get underway, they're deployed, there is extra work. Change is hard. However, the drivers find that they like the electric buses better than the diesel for 2 reasons. One is that they are less tired at the end of their shifts because they're breathing clean air. There's 0 emissions attached to electric school buses, so that helps them with their own health and their work-life quality. Moreover, the electrics are quiet. Instead of the roar of diesel, especially as you go up a hill, here's this quiet. They're now better able to manage the rambunctious school children who caper around behind them as they operate these heavy-duty vehicles. So it's working. Finally, meet the 3rd person of this team. And this would be Don. Don is an electrical engineer at Nelson Utility. He likes change. He likes innovation. He enjoyed helping Heather to get her chargers, first project for both of them. And he's also networking with other utility engineers around the country, learning about pilot projects on something called bidirectional charging, which is very new in his world. Because for all these decades, more than a century, energy goes from one direction. It goes from the grid out into our buildings and our businesses. But now they're learning to send energy in the other direction, especially with electric school buses. He's taking notes. Now we arrive in March of 2020. And we all remember March of 2020. COVID hits. Okay. Our characters, their lives are stressed. It's hard. Change, adjustment. However, they have time to slow down. They slowed down during COVID, and they started to look at the bigger picture of their community. And they realized we've been getting worse and worse heat for many years. And we want our community, they all love their community, different walks of life, same love for community. we need to build a community resilience center. They have the time to think this through. And Maria is very good at finding funding, and that's the part that she goes after. Heather and Dawn are putting their heads together on the technical aspects of building such a thing, which is very new. And this type of project, called the Mover Project, among others, I'm working on this. This is going to be in Hood River. These ideas are developing. They're starting to come to fruition. But at this point, Heather is really bonding with her co-collaborators, which is what we do. When we're working on a project, we bond. Heather is among other things, she's a rocker. And one night they're together having a few beers. She says, I submit that Janis Joplin was one of the best rockers that ever lived. However, if she today were going to write, oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz? It might be written a little bit differently, okay? And it might go like this. What we did there, we took an old thing and we made it new. And that's what we have to do with climate change. We take old things and we make them new. Specifically, Heather learns that you can take a midlife diesel bus, considered as almost 500,000 in the country. You can repower. You can take it in midlife. It doesn't need to go to a junkyard. None of us want that kind of waste. You can take out the diesel drivetrain, put in batteries, an electric drivetrain. You can do this at half the cost of a new electric school bus. And that is powerful. And that is conserving resources. So Heather wants to go down this path. And the concept has been proven in at least one place in the US, and it's catching on in other states. Okay. Let's loop back now to our August 2027 scenario. I'm sorry to say the heat wave is unabated. The power is still out. It is blistering out there, but it's cool and livable in the Community Resilience Center. You go back to the clinic. Your dear friend and neighbor, Andy, is he okay? You find him. He's sitting up now. He raises his hand to you in greeting. His heat stroke has been resolved because this resilience center that Dawn and Heather and Maria collaborated on is working as planned, with the energy coming abundantly from the sun into the solar panels, going into electric school buses, and then into the building in a self-sufficient loop that is sustaining your community in a time of crisis. Friends, I don't suggest that this would work in every single community in the US if you don't have enough sun, like maybe Alaska, but in many places, this can work. Electric school buses improve the lives, especially of the most vulnerable. But the particular thing to note is that as climate change advances, our energy grid is aging, and extreme weather events are hammering us with more and more ferocious events. Electric school buses are uniquely able to help us respond. And this is because they have such predictable schedules with such ample downtime, and they can discharge the energy from their massive battery packs into the grid. And as we harness this whole second purpose, beyond reducing emissions, beyond protecting the health of precious cargo like Arturo, we come to realize it's not just the Arturos of our world that are precious cargo. The Andes of our world are precious cargo also, and you and I as well, as we revolve together around this sun on this beautiful, challenged planet that we are sharing as our only home. Thank you.